Happy Easter. What is the meaning of Christ's resurrection? Does it have real practical implications in my life, in the life of this world? Or is it simply, as many would say, a free ticket to heaven? An escape plan, if you will, so that because Christ rose, when I die someday, I can be with God in heaven. I would venture to say, along with N.T. Wright and other scripture scholars, that when we study the event itself, biblically and authentically looking at sacred scripture, we must admit that the resurrection has to have real and practical implications for our life here on earth, not just for my life someday in heaven. This idea that Christ rose from the dead, this event that Christ rose and therefore I will be in heaven, is an incomplete understanding of the event, I believe, and many theologians believe the same. So what is it? What is the meaning of the resurrection? Well, it's a new recreation of sorts. That's why we look at the readings at the Easter Vigil of creation story and fall and redemption, and then recreation through the Easter mystery of the resurrection. In other words, God, through the act of resurrection, is recreating that which He has already given us, renewing it and making it whole again. And so the Easter spirituality, Easter message, what it means for us who call ourselves as Easter people, is not a life that is in some way dismissive of the world and the physicality of the world around us, because someday we will have what we want and what we need in heaven. But it's quite the opposite. It's a reimagining of what has been given to us and understanding that God has created things to be good, that God delights in this world, God delights in me, and that in Him, through the gift of Easter, I can begin already here on earth a recreation of sorts, a recreation of God's order, of God's created design. The gift of the resurrection is not only an event that proves the divinity of Jesus and helps us say to all the naysayers, see, we told you so, we follow the winner, we follow the one who conquered death. If that's all we can say, then my golly, are we really able to live a spirit-filled life, a life of grace, a life of opportunity, a life of recreation, a life of resurrection? The resurrection of Jesus is not just something that happens to Jesus, but it's also a foretelling of what God desires to do in each one of us. And that's why what we do in this world, how we treat this world, how we treat one another and ourselves, it matters. Because we are not here as Christians, as followers of Jesus, as Easter people, waiting to escape what we have been given, but we are awaiting the resurrection of all that God has created, a renewal, a sanctification. And so we are not to discard anything, but rather to be busy and involved in renewing and recreating and reordering everything that God has given us, because Christ's resurrection is just a foreshadowing of what God desires for us. Happy Easter.